Okay, so here we are with part 3 of beginners with acrylics and mountains and skies, and now we're going to do some trees and bushes. Okay, so what I'm using is just a 1 inch, well actually it's a 1.5 inch little cheap craft brush on my 140-pound paper with my acrylic paint, and I'm just using blue right now, and this is mostly just blue. The whole thing is made with blue and white. I'm not going to put any white out until I'm ready to use it. So I'm taking straight blue and I'm loading up my brush. This just tapping it into it, loading it up, and then I've got my foreground, and I'm just taking my brush this way, and I am going across just to kind of give me some landscaping here, some more of the blue. And this is pretty thick, the way it's put on here. But you have to put the dark in before you do the highlights. And I've got an indication of a couple of trees over here where I just kind of put it sideways. The one in the back is going to be a little lighter, so I did add a little bit of white to it. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, maybe have just a couple smaller trees in the background, and then one big one. Now as you come forward, your paint should get darker. So this tree is going to be close up, a little bit wider trunk, and also very bushy. So my foreground trees are going to be big, fluffier, and the ones behind not so much. So I've got those in place. Then I'm going to switch my brush to a 3/4 inch one, and this is where you do your background trees first, so that when you do the foreground trees, the ones closest to you, that puts in that perspective for you, that depth of the picture for you. So I'm taking a little bit of white, and I have not added any water to this. Okay, now I'm going to take just a corner of water on the brush just to kind of soften it down just a little bit. Okay, get a little bit of that, and take some of the blue and a little bit of the white, so I get lined up like a gray blue, and that's going to be my trees behind. Now this paint is too thin, it's too watery. Remember, I'm using acrylics with water, so I'm going to need some more white to thicken it up. I'm going to need more white anyway. And take a paper towel or a sponge and take most of the moisture out of there. Grab the white with a little bit of the blue, and then just touch where you would want, branches to be. Okay. Now this has got too much white in it, so I need to grab some of the blue so that it's a pale blue, and then the white ends up being like a highlight to it, which actually works out really well. And that goes behind. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So basically it's a gray. It's a white with the blue diluted with the white to where it's almost gray. It is actually kind of, when you add white to blue, it turns into a gray anyway. And I'm just going back and forth, just lightly tapping it. Same way with the next one. You don't want to erase the dark. You want to keep that in there. Okay, this is what Impressionist painting is like. So nothing's very distinct. It's actually very diluted looking. And if I want to add more definition, I'm going to put a dark side to these trees in the background with a little bit darker blue just on one side. Now you can kind of see where it looks that way. Then I'm going to take you can use a fan brush, or you can use a little liner brush, which I'm going to use the liner brush for this. I use different brushes to get this part down, but to get the trunk in there and just draw it in. Now I start out with the dark blue first, just because it's easier to start dark and then to lighten it up. And do the same thing with the next tree trunk. Put indication of a branch here and there. With that, it's probably a medium shade of blue. All the way up. Same thing with the next one. You want to be able to see the branches through the leaves that you're going to incorporate onto here. Now you can do this in the natural colors that the trees are, the greens and the yellows and all that. But when you're first starting out as a beginner, it's always fun to just work with one color and just to see what you can do with that one color. And this is two colors. It's the blue and the white. And if you add enough white to the blue, you get your gray. And I'm just putting the indications of the trunk of it. Now, to give some highlighting to it, first you got to decide where your light's coming from. And now that I've got my trunks in here, this one over here needed a little bit more of the blue for the leaves because it was too light. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in there. And it's just literally tapping it into your blue paint and tapping it on here. And as you can see, as it goes up over the white clouds, you can actually see it better. So to highlight these, the ones in the distance get highlighted, you add a little bit more white. I'm not adding more water to the brush because it's already diluted. And I'm just going to touch the edges and leave the rest of it in there. Touching the edges, just the edges of where the indications of those leaves are on both trees on one side. So then way you have highlighting. Now coming forward, since these trees, you need to have the dark for the light to show up. So you want to take some more of the, because I used up all my blue. You're going to take this blue. Now you can add black to it if you want. I'm just doing this in blue and white, just so I can show you can do it with just two colors. Okay, so I've loaded up that same 3/4 inch brush again, and I'm going to go back and forth for my leaves because these are going to be fluffy trees. So we're just going to okay. So the leaves on these are going to come across the other trees in the back and still have them visible. Okay. And you can come out as far as you want. You can have like a big branch come out this way. You can do a fan brush to do this effect also if you like. But I'm just using the 3/4 inch brush, and I stopped here because I'm going to show you how to do the base part. Now to highlight these guys in the foreground, I'm just going to add white to what I already have in here. And I'm going to touch just on the edge, just the edges. So that the white part, the dark part doesn't disappear, so you still see the leafy part of it. Grab some more white. Do the same thing on the other side. And I'm going to do a little bit of a light spot in the front just so it kind of makes sense for the leaves to come kind of like drooping down. Okay, so now I've got those in place. This one needs a little bit more. Right, now to go in and highlight the tree trunks, you can use, a 1/4 inch kind of brush like this. I like to lean on the little liner brush because it's easy to make nice little straight lines. The part that is away from your light sources, your dark, and you want to put in the dark. I like to put in the dark first. So the dark backside first. Needs a little bit of water. There we go. That in the backside of the one in behind, because that one fell behind. And this one here. And that one branch there that you can see. And the top's right here. Same way with that one behind it. And this tree over here that was behind. And then you want to highlight the front of the foreground trees. So a little bit more. Then pull it down and pull it across. Give that bark look to it. And then what I like to do is get it wet and pull it back. And then fix that dark spot up. I'm just gonna give it a bark look with the streaks of dark with the light. And have a branch that kind of, that's why I like to use the liner brush, because you can just do the indication where you can just kind of see the branch in there, in the trunk, just in spots. Just like that. And then go to the other side and do the same thing. Like that. And then do the front side. Of course, this one's going to be closer up. And pull that across. Get that bark look. Okay. It needs a little bit of more fluidity here. And bring it across. And highlight with what's left on the trees below, behind. So they actually are present. Okay, and then since I took away some of my darkness on the back side here, put that back in. And then go up a little bit. Now you can decide how far up you want to go with the showing the back side of your tree trunk. I go about 2/3 up. Now we've got tree trunks, we've got the trees in the background, and for below the trees, and this is just a little thing that I do, is that I want to create the look of some kind of grass or vegetation below it. And I'll take this, whatever paint is left in this brush, and it looks like it's got some of the light blue, which is cool, and just a touch of water. I'm going to take it and I'm going to punch it in, just punch the paper with it, and leave the dark spaces under there in it. So this looks like brush, it's like, you don't want to take away all the little dark spots. You want those to stay. And the same way with at the base of this big tree. Okay, so now, and if I do it vertically, I can actually put some around the others in the background. So now I've actually put bushes in the front, bushes in the back. I still have my reflection in the water. And then you can take the liner brush, get it wet, and take some of this blue and just put some sticks of, for the bushes, something that holds them together. You can do that. A little bit of a grassy spot below the one tree just by pulling it up. Just taking a little bit of paint on and pull it up And it makes these little like grassy spots, grassy bush things. And I like to do that in the background too. Just like this, right around the base of the other trees. Some in the front, some in the back. Do the same thing on the other side for that tree that's in the distance. It's a little further back. And then to finish this off, what I'm going to do is put a little water line in it with the white. And the water line is going to be from the background. Just kind of smooth it in there, just like that. And of course your water's going to have movement. So you want to make sure that all these little lines are straight as you go across and that they fade out as you go. And that gives you that feeling of depth. Now what you can do if you want to make it more of a realism type of painting and you want this to have like more definition, take your liner brush and go to the highlighted spots and just outline it. And a little bit of water. You want it to be a little bit more fluid. You're going to be careful not to make it too thick. Okay, and go inside. Do the same thing here on the other tree below. Fix that little bit of a mark there. And same thing on the other side. You're doing a highlight on the outside of the branch and trunk areas. Like that. This is actually like a diluted blue. It's like a pale color. And come to the tree that is most closest to you. And same thing. And then if you want to outline your mountains and give more prominence to those. And when this water line was really faded out. Oh, to make it nice and crisp. Gives you the idea that there's, you know, some kind of a little sandy area back there, so you make it a little bit whiter. Okay, and go like that. And if you really want to outline the part of your mountains where they have that snow on them, just go in with some extra white and just hit that spot. The area that you want to jump out off your paper. And just go up here and do that. This is because it was done with a brush and not the palette knife. And this little ice glacier to have it show up. Just draw it in there. Just draw it in there in the back. Like that. And this just makes it pop off your paper or canvas, whatever you're painting it on, more by giving it that extra bright white. And you know, it's like it'll be a little bit in the water. You can add that into there if you want to. It's not really necessary, but you can add it after the fact. And it kind of looks like the water's rippling when you do it, like little tiny brush strokes, little tiny brush strokes. This. And you can go back if you got too much on there. Just take your moist paper towel and just kind of pull it off. Okay, and then to accentuate the mountains, take your blue, just straight blue, and on the side that has the shadow, just go to it. So I'm adding that bit of dark blue. And give it that more rough look. And just adding some lines to it. Now, normally you do the background first and then you come forward. Well, in this case, you can go to background and actually make it pop. It's like giving it an extra little boost of color. And that's what I'm doing with this. I'm just adding some additional depth to it by enriching the color to it. Like I said, you can do the same thing with all the natural colors, the browns and the golds and whatever else you want in your mountains, but these are blue mountains. So we're just making these guys jump off the page by adding just a little more paint on top of the dry paint and giving it a whole another dimension. Well, as you can see, now you can really see these guys. And then you can take, for these gray clouds that are back here, just kind of add to them a little. Right where they meet that white. With that blue and white gray kind of color. It's hard to see where the white is when the gray is so light, so we're going to darken up a little bit because there's dark spots in gray clouds. Take some of that out. Just bring some more color around the peaks. Put some water there. And that way you can actually see those different values of color. So now you can kind of see how this becomes three-dimensional, little by little. And all I'm going to do is add a little bit in this little background here. It just seems like it needs a little something. I don't know exactly. I feel like I need a little. Yeah, that helps a lot. There we go. Need something in the little background there. So now you can see your peaks of the mountains behind, because, and you can even add a little bit of this muted blue that I was using for down below and add it to that white. That really makes them stand out. So now we've got 3 blue peaks, blue foreground. I could smooth this bottom out just with a little bit of water. And pull it out. Of course, that part you're not going to see in a frame anyway. But let's go like that, and then take and add some blue to it, a straight blue to it. Cover up that white look. And I'm just tapping it. Okay, just kind of frames it out, and it looks like that the plants above are like actually sitting on some kind of dirt or soil or whatever. If you want to give a couple of your bushes down at the bottom kind of a pop, grab your white, literally stab it like this, so you can see like white spots on the bottom of your brush, like that, and then highlight, pop, okay, and then pop, and pop here, pop there, and then you've got these little bushes, these little like, white flower bushes that are growing down there, whatever they are. And I'm not adding any more pink to it, I'm just popping it on there. You can use that to cover up the bottom and just go pop, 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 right across. One in the background. Basically, that's all you need to do. You don't want to cover up all your dark. And now you've got this beautiful blue and white painting. I know you can do it. It's easy. Just play with your brushes and go for it.